Number 10, the football game. To kick off this list, pun intended, we go back to the golden age of comics with Jay Barrick to Flash Comics issue 1. So back in the 50s, the issue opens up with Jay trying to get the attention of Joan, but she's not interested, all because he sucks at football. In her words, she even says, "A man of your build and brains could be a star." Both tridents hurt. Oh no, whatever shall we do? Haha. And then in comes the super speedster just to ruin the game for the rest of the guys who've trained for like 16 years of their life to get there. And I love how happy he is too at this moment. Like, he's clearly been waiting for this his entire life. Like, he just flies through touchdown after touchdown after touchdown. One guy on the other team has the right idea. He straight up quits. And the game ends being 65-30. I mean, save some action for the rest of us, Jay. We warmed up for like 2 hours, come on. And before we move on to number 9, guys, if you haven't already, please give this video a thumbs up. It helps us a lot here, and it's right there. It's right somewhere down there. It's that one. It looks like a hand with a thumb. It's hard to miss. All right, thank you. Now back to the list. Number 9, Super Kids. Nothing beats a family outing. Either that means a trip to the movies or battling monsters with your super kids. That's right, once Wally West and his family returned from a fun little Speed Force trip, his kids had powers. How fun. Now, being so young, there's the Incredibles type question. Should they be allowed to be superheroes? Well, in the Flash Volume 2, issue 233, Wally comes up with the mindset that speedsters age differently. And sometimes it's hard to understand how much longer they have to live. So Wally thinks it's best to let them do what they want because YOLO, am I right? And it's a pretty cute issue. Like, the kids are eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, trying to fuel up for the fight. In the first few pages, Iris even admits that she stole the sandwich from a fat kid, so everybody wins. Those are her words, not mine. God, I should add another point to this list just for that line. What a savage. Number 8, the loop of life. Everybody has that one memory they wish they could just delete from their brain. Like, maybe you were late for work and then you spilled your coffee all over your lovely flannel shirt. Now, what if you had to relive that nightmare over and over, Groundhog Day style? Well, that's what happens to Zoom. In Flash issue 200, Wally West uses his powers to defeat him, but he freezes him and makes him repeat the worst day of his life over and over and over again. Now, this is why I want to be a speedster. This issue right here, I would love to do this. I would just make everybody chill out in their favorite memory and just kind of lay low. Maybe a couple I'd put in some embarrassing memories, you know? Of course, I mean, I'm a human. Like, he looks like he's in so much pain. You could just tell by the dramatic one teardrop. This is literal hell that he's in. He just sits and repeats the line, "He doesn't have a gun, trust me, Ashley," over and over. Poor Hunter Zolomon. I mean, he's not the best guy in the world, but you can't help for feeling somewhat bad. I mean, he's a human. And number 7, more mind games. Yes, of course, we go back to that same issue, Flash 200, where he puts forth this amazing plan to mess with everybody's mind. So now at this point, the Flash thinks, you know what, it's probably best if everybody just forgets who he is. Not too bad of an idea. So he gets some help from the Spectre and Hal Jordan. They talk it out, and Wally figures if he mind wipes everybody, all will be good. Bang bang, boom. Well, Wally ends up forgetting who the Flash is as well, for a short amount of time. So with everybody not knowing about the Flash causes the opposite reaction. There's more crime. No speedsters in the way. Heh, let's go rob some shit. And number 6, death is cool. Flash Comics issue 1, this time it's in the shape of Jay Garrick. So Flash decides it's a smart idea to go and attack a group of villains. Now at this point it's early in the comics and he's just now buckling down with the responsibilities of his new powers. So he goes, I'll go after them, let's do it. So what does he do? He ends up in a chase with a villain named Sir Satan. Cool name. And then he runs his car off the road, literally runs it off the road. Then there he was in terrible shape in the burning car, and Jay, furthermore wanting to take on the superhero responsibilities, decides not to help, but to rather just look cool. Like, at least collect his teeth off the dashboard first, you know? Fix his hair, maybe ask him if he needs a band-aid or two. I get it though. If I took down a supervillain, I'd probably talk some shit. I'd do monologues. I would do like Shakespeare monologues while he's burning in his car.
Starting us off in at number 10, Black Flash. The actual physical representation of death for all speedsters, Black Flash is the Grim Reaper of the Speed Force. Making his first appearance in the Flash Volume 2, number 138 back in 1998, he was seen before the deaths of several speedsters including Barry Allen, Johnny Quick, and Bart Allen. But he also tried to return Wally West to the Speed Force, but was unsuccessful, taking Linda Park instead, Wally's girlfriend. Black Flash eventually did return to try to claim Wally again, freezing time for everyone without a connection to the Speed Force Force to do so, but thanks to the combined efforts of multiple speedsters, Wally was able to race Black Flash until the end of time, causing death to have no meaning. The CW Black Flash, which was really just Hunter Zolomon aka Zoom, was killed during season 3 when Savitar lured him out of the Speed Force and then Killer Frost froze him, resulting in her first kill that actually turned out to be her ex as well. Dare I say, ice cold. But that didn't stop the Speed Force anyway, since later on Barry Allen returned in the Flash Rebirth storyline in the comics, becoming the new Black Flash. So this is also a version of the original Flash as well as a separate entity. In at 9, Inertia. The bitter feud between the Allen family and the Thawne family would span generations. Even in the 30th century, President Thawne sought to recruit Bart Allen in his revenge campaign against the Allens, since Bart was half Thawne himself. When that failed, Thawne mixed Bart's DNA with Thawne's genetic material to create a speedster clone who he named Thaddeus Thawne. Whereas Bart grew in a hyper-accelerated world, Thaddeus' childhood was the exact opposite, because of course it was, he's the reverse. His development was super slow, which led the young speedster to become more calculated and methodical. Thaddeus was also taught to hate the Allen family, and Impulse in particular. In addition to this modification, Thaddeus' growth and development was slowed. This is in contrast to Bart's accelerated development. However, after killing Bart, Wally West had other plans. Upon hearing of Bart's death, an enraged Flash hunted Inertia down. Though he thought of killing him, Flash decided instead to do something worse. He used his abilities to slow Inertia's movements down to the point where he was totally immobile, essentially a living statue, and then he placed Inertia on display at the Flash Museum facing statues of Bart Allen as Impulse and Kid Flash. He could still think, see, and hear in normal time, but was frozen in place. Inertia was then just doomed to spend an eternity in a state of near total paralysis, staring at images of the guy he killed. In at 8, Godspeed. August Hart is the former detective partner of Barry Allen. August was the only witness to Barry's accident that turned him into the Flash, and while going after a criminal organization called the Black Hole, August was struck by lightning during a Speed Force storm in Central City. August became the ruthless vigilante known as Godspeed, and got his revenge on the man who he suspected to have killed his brother. He had given up on the justice system since his brother's killer had gone free, and with his newfound power, had the ability to become judge, jury, and executioner. August realized after he had gotten his powers that he also had the ability to steal others' speed, though for a time he could only do it by killing them. He practiced this skill to be able to do it non-lethally as well though. With his new godlike speed, August was able to move so fast as to create duplicates of himself at any given time, allowing him to give the illusion that he and Godspeed were different people, which is pretty damn sick, considering the alternatives are Speed Mirage and Time Remnant, which aren't exactly the same thing but are still fairly similar. And at 7, Earth X. There's little known about the Earth X version of Barry Allen. Known as Blitzkrieg in this reality, he's a fascist version of the Flash working alongside Dark Arrow and Overgirl, the Oliver Queen and Kara Zor-El of Earth X, who are also married, but that's a story for another day. In the Arrow vs. Crisis on Earth X crossover, Earth X Barry is actually nowhere to be seen. Instead, he's replaced by Reverse Flash, the Eobard Thawne of Earth 1. Even though on the animated show The Ray, which takes place on Earth X, there is a fascist Barry, so what happened? It's largely assumed that between his last appearance in the show and in the crossover, that Thawne arrived and took his chance to kill at least a version of Barry, even if it wasn't his own. Hence why the other Earth Xers were so trusting of Thawne, since he had bested their Barry. I don't know how this Barry got his powers without the particle accelerator, but what I do know is that even the Joker refused to work with the Red Skull when he realized that he was actually a fascist and not some kook in a wildly inappropriate costume, saying that he may be a psychopath, but he's an American psychopath, or something along those lines. So, Reverse Flash is worse than Joker confirmed. Like, this wasn't even a Reverse Flash who was raised in the fascist life. He just wanted to help out, which is messed up as hell. And at 6, Zoom. Hunter Zolomon was a serial killer from Earth 2, also known as the maniacal super speedster known as Zoom. Having gotten tired of being the villain, Hunter decided to also become the hero after capturing Jay Garrick, the Flash from Earth 3, masquerading as Jay to gain Barry Allen's trust. When he was 11, Hunter saw his father kill his mother. Hunter's father ended up in jail, and Hunter was raised in the foster care system since no relative wanted him. Hunter later became a convicted serial killer and was going through electroshock therapy when Earth 2 Harrison Wells' particle accelerator exploded underground. This ended up connecting him to the Speed Force and he escaped. Zolomon killed some police officers on his way out and left one to tell his story. The one police officer said he saw a man zooming around, giving Zolomon the alias of Zoom. Zoom later then killed that police officer in his house. And at 10, The Flash. Now, the Flash has fought alternate versions of himself a lot, and I mean a lot. But I think that the most interesting time was when it was him from an alternate future where Wally West had died. And this future Barry's solution was to come back and kill his past self so the timeline of events that caused Wally to die wouldn't happen. Yeah, I still don't understand it either. However, to gain enough speed, Barry has to kill all of his rogues, including Gorilla Grodd, Mirror Master, and Captain Cold, who he just like sits with as he dies. It's weird. I also don't get how going on a killing spree helps you gain more speed, but whatever, maybe Reverse Flash did it. He eventually does gain enough speed and runs back in time to try to kill himself. But both the present Barry and a future version of Wally West fight off future Barry, and future Barry gets killed. But before dying, he's able to mutter Thawne in an attempt to explain that Thawne killed his mother. Yeah, gotta love comics, right? They make so much sense. In at 9, Mecha Vibe. I will admit the Flash TV show has gone in some interesting directions recently. However, the most recent season saw Barry lose basically all of his emotions for a time while trying to build an artificial speed force. But this ended up causing Barry to be very logical but also weirdly impulsive, becoming a form of pseudo-villain for a couple episodes. But when choosing to take only Iris out of the Mirrorverse, the team retaliates and tries to stop him. But in the process, Barry absolutely destroys all of them because he literally can predict where a ball will appear before it's thrown. He just puts his hand up and there's a ball that will just bounce in random directions that Cisco throws, and then he doesn't move his hand and catches it. Like, what? Gotta love that speed thinking. And you know, it's not like that would have helped against DeVoe or anything. Gotta love when they introduce new abilities that would have really helped previously, huh? Oh, and that damn copyright neutral lightsaber battle in the finale, seriously? That had to be the most ridiculous bull I've ever seen on this show. Like, I thought Godspeed was gonna pull some like sick ass Zeus bull and like start like grab the lightning and like start throwing it, but no, he made a lightning saber. This show, man. And it ate Green Arrow. Okay, so during the Elseworlds crossover event, Flash and Green Arrow swapped their powers. So Oliver Queen became the Flash and Barry Allen became the Green Arrow. Yet even with that, Barry was in essence still his old self until he started having to take on a darker personality in order to be the Green Arrow. Before doing this, however, he did finally get his revenge on Oliver after around 6 years. In the very first crossover, Flash vs. Arrow, we saw Oliver training Barry on how to case an environment. He did so by placing remote control crossbows in a field and told Barry to catch an arrow. After he did, the remote control crossbows shot Barry in the back. Literally. Barry, however, got his revenge in Elseworlds where he did the same thing to Oliver on Earth 38, when training Oliver on how to use his speed. I don't know how he got the bows there, because like, I mean, it was another Earth, but it still counts. He also beat the Amazo robot after it had gained the abilities of Green Arrow among others, so that certainly counts as well. And at 7, other Flashes. When Wally goes berserk and starts killing other speedsters, you know it's gonna be an interesting issue. Yeah, in the Future State storyline, we see some Flashes including Jay Garrick, Barry Allen, and Max Mercury fighting off various thugs with blasters, swords, and futuristic torpedo grenades. But one of the speedsters gets injured and they have to retreat. They later, for some reason, get inside each other's dreams and end up in some psychic plane of existence where Wally ends up finding them somehow. It also seems to be like a version of Wally that's also Black Flash, or like maybe it's Black Flash disguising, I don't know. Either way, this version of Wally absolutely rips through the entire Flash family, feeding on their psychic forms, and honestly, that's enough for me to put it on this list, so just cause like I don't want it to happen to me. And at 6, Kid Flash. In season 3 of The Flash, Barry kinda gave up on his responsibilities because he was scared of losing Iris. Like, I get it, the girl you've been pining after for years had finally admitted that she had feelings for you, but then you went and changed the timeline, so losing her would definitely end up sucking. But you don't give all the responsibility of saving her to her little brother, that Godspeed, because you changed the timeline. Damn, season 3 was weird. However, in season 3, episode 12, Barry and Wally have a race to keep Wally's training going. Things seem fairly even until they come to a building that they need to run over. Barry faces through the wall, but since Wally doesn't know how to do that, he has to run over the building. Funny. Wally has to run over a wall. Wally, wall. Either way, Barry ends up winning and Wally complains because he phased. But then Barry responds with the best line of, "What's my name?" Since prior he was mentioning how he was called the fastest man alive. Also, I want to just say that they were betting on this race and Caitlyn bet more on Barry than Iris did. So maybe I should have let Savitar win. Just saying.
And number 5, Prison Break. We go now to the Flash 164 from 1987, and the cover of the page shows Flash being put in the Slammer. Ooh, the Flash is stuck in this mirror dimension where he doesn't exist, so there's a lot of questions floating around for the Flash. Now, instead of using his super speed to exit the station and figure out a game plan, he super kicks everybody's ass. I mean, this world thinks that all superheroes are evil. Way to prove their point right off the bat. The Flash even says, I gotta keep my cool. No matter where I am, I'm not gonna scrap with police. And then he immediately hoofs one of them in the jaw, breaking the shield guard on his mask. Number 4, ignoring a call for help. Flash 89 in 1994 Volume 2, Wally West was involved in a civil lawsuit. The plaintiff, Allison Armitage, was injured so badly while Wally was out kicking ass that she ended up having to get her legs amputated. That's how bad this ended up. Now, as if that wasn't bad enough, she said Wally West ignored her when she cried out for help. That of course caused her injury. She wanted $20 million for the whole case. Allison's lawyer was none other than the villain Abracadabra. So Wally thinks that there's something fishy going on, and the Barry Allen Foundation made an agreement that Wally can't use the Flash outfit or persona. Quite the punishment if you ask me, jeez. You're grounded, bucko. But don't worry, him and Allison come to an agreement in the next issue, but regaining the ability to walk was not included in said agreement. Now the best part of this issue has to be the court scene. The Flash goes nuts. He's asked if he did everything he could, and he's like, I'm fast as lightning. And they're like, yes, but did you do what you could? And he's like, I'm super fast though. I don't know. And number 3, killed Reverse Flash. Flash issue 324, we have the Trial of the Flash storyline. And the cover of the issue is enough to make you want to pick it up and take a peek. We find Barry as he sets for holy matrimony with Fiona Webb. Now, leading up to what's supposed to be the happiest day of your life, Reverse Flash starts leaving creepy messages for Barry. One message literally spells out in big letters, guess who's gonna kill your wife again? With a question mark that looks like a 2. Maybe he's going too fast, couldn't do it. Yeah, Reverse Flash had done that previously, but this time, he doesn't just punch him in the head a few times and talk smack. No, this time he changes it up a bit and breaks his neck. And afterwards, Barry was arrested. The police officer comes in and literally says, oh, I don't like the angle of that neck. He's like, hey, I've seen some necks in my time, rookie. That's a bent neck. I sleep on this neck quite funny, so whenever I see bent necks, I'm always like, ooh, I feel like the bent neck lady. Now, of course, it was an accident, but it still happened, and it's still pretty violent, so you gotta include it. And number 2, immobile inertia. So at the start of this video, I mentioned the name Bart Allen. Bart is the grandson of Barry Allen. Now, at this time, there's nobody like Barry or Wally to take the mantle of the Flash. He skipped the whole teenage years thing and went right to being an adult. Speedsters are wild, thus becoming the Flash for a small amount of time. Because the evil speedster Inertia, aka Thaddeus Thawne, killed Bart Allen. This evil clone of Bart Allen is responsible for him being gunned down. So when Wally West returned, he was pretty angry. But instead of killing him, he freezes Inertia, making him this sentient statue, and added to the Flash Museum, just blinking and breathing for eternity. Of course, staring at Bart Allen the whole time. Quite the punishment, I like it. I'm here for it, as the kids would say. And finally, number 1, FLASHPOINT. One of the biggest upcoming DC movies, and for good reason, the FLASHPOINT storyline, where the Flash tries to go back in time to save his mother from dying her tragic death. Not a bad idea at all. I'd probably try and do that too. This story was released in 2011, written by Jeff Johns and Andy Kubert, and starts with Barry waking up with no Flash powers. Interesting. In fact, the Flash doesn't even exist. Everything has changed. His mother, Nora, was still alive. Score! And his father, Henry, died 3 years prior. Not score. Yeah, in his own timeline, his father's actually alive. He's just in jail. There's no Justice League at this point, and Superman isn't even in the picture. The best part? And one plot point that we're most looking forward to is that Batman in this universe is actually Thomas Wayne, Bruce Wayne's father. So Bruce ended up dying that night instead of his parents. So this caused his mother Martha to go insane, and then she ended up becoming the Joker. And that's why during the opening credits of Batman vs Superman, we're all hyped in the audience because we see Jeffrey Dean Morgan and Lauren Cohen, 2 amazing actors in such a small opening scene with no dialogue. Interesting. Now, with recent news of Michael Keaton set to return in that storyline, Jeffrey Dean Morgan took to the internet and said, Michael Keaton swooped in and took my gig. Nah, I think that's super cool. Ever since Zack Snyder walked away, my whole kind of bit in that world has walked away with him. However, there's always a chat going on. God, I hope Jeffrey Dean Morgan would be the best dark Batman. Like, we've kind of been waiting for a long time. Just do it, just do it. So we shall see, fingers crossed. I think that movie's coming out June 2nd, 2022. For now, I mean, let's all wear masks. Maybe we'll see it sooner. Just an idea.
Halfway through into number 5, The Rival. Edward Claris is the Rival, the archenemy of Golden Age Flash Jay Garrick. Claris was a chemistry professor at the university attended by Jay Garrick. He believed that he had recreated the formula that gave Garrick his speed. Bitter at the rejection of his research claims by the scientific community though, Claris became a criminal wearing a darker version of the Flash's outfit, the original Reverse Flash. The effects of this version of the formula however proved to be temporary and he was defeated when it expended. Decades later though, following the reformation of the Justice Society of America, Claris was retrieved from the Speed Force, because he had been put in there at some point, by the interdimensional supercriminal Johnny Sorrow, who invited him to join the new Injustice Society. Now composed of pure speed energy, Claris possessed Garrick's friend and fellow Golden Age speedster Max Mercury to get the Flash's attention. Rival committed a series of swift, gruesome murders at locations that, when mapped out, would spell out a message. We don't talk about the Arrowverse version, though. Like, I know his suit was meant to be similar to Daniel West's Reverse Flash, but come on. And for Johnny Quick. Johnny Allen, alias Johnny Quick, is a criminal speedster from Earth 3. Together with his girlfriend and partner in crime Atomica, he was a member of the crime syndicate. Johnny Allen was a high-profile criminal on the run with his equally criminal girlfriend, cornered on the roof of Central City's Star Labs. Allen was struck by a bolt of lightning which shattered the roof, and the duo fell into the lab space below, with Allen landing amid some chemicals. Obviously, this is the thing that ended up granting him his super speed, and he went on to become a super criminal alongside his girlfriend who had also been empowered. He took on the name of Johnny Quick, while his girlfriend took on the name of Atomica. The couple joined the crime syndicate at some point after this. Johnny Quick, as he now called himself, ran through Central City answering to no one, until the day the White House burned, around the time of Darkseid's incursion onto Earth Prime. The being that had destroyed Ultraman's Krypton came to Earth, and an alliance of super criminals formed to find a way to safety. Getting close to the end, in at number 3, Red Death. Red Death is a speedster that is an evil combination of Batman and the Flash, which already sounds terrifying, but wait till you hear his story. The Bruce Wayne of Earth 52 started off fighting crime with Robin, but Robins kept dying left, right, and center. So understandably, Batman got darker and darker, becoming more extreme with his, let's call them methods. Which honestly seems more realistic to me, aside from just quitting fighting crime. Which can't happen, otherwise we wouldn't have this story, right? And DC wouldn't make any money. This eventually leads him to Barry Allen, who refuses to give Bruce his Speed Force powers. So Batman, using the various rogues' weapons to fight off Barry, knocked him out. Once Barry was unconscious, Bruce tied him to the front of a cosmic treadmill-powered Batmobile and drove them both into the Speed Force. I don't even know how that happened or worked logically, but okay, you do you, Bat Marty. When entering the Speed Force though, Barry and Bruce ended up fusing together into an evil Batman with super speed and a lust for killing, while Barry's mind was trapped in Bruce's body. He then gets a visit from the Batman Who Laughs, who asks him to join the Dark Knights, whose goal is conquering the multiverse. Penultimately, in at number 2, Savitar. As a fan of the Arrowverse, I felt like I needed to include one of the most interesting speedsters in the show. Savitar, while sharing a name with another evil speedster from the comics, is actually revealed to be a time remnant of Barry Allen in the show, being more of a future Flash than a Savitar. Honestly, he's like a combination of both. His story, though, is pretty messed up. In essence, making himself and having a classic chicken and the egg scenario. In the post-Flashpoint Arrowverse timeline, Savitar comes back from the future to kill Iris West before her and Barry get married. This causes Barry to create as many time remnants as possible, which is basically a clone of himself, in order to stop him. But Savitar kills all of them except one. The one that he spares then gets shunned by the rest of Team Flash for not being the real Barry Allen, even though he is still the real Barry. It's weird. So in an act of fury, the Time Remnant runs back in time, creating a new identity for himself as the first speedster and the god of speed known as Savitar. But the suit he wears allows him to travel at basically instantaneous speeds, which the show Flash has not been able to do at this point, even in recent seasons. And finally, in at number 1, Reverse Flash. I know what you're thinking, okay? Isn't Eobard just the Reverse Flash? Like, not actually a version of the Flash? In the main continuity, yes, but also thinking about the Flash Armageddon crossover, Barry Allen becomes the Reverse Flash, so this could be another literal evil version of the Flash. But in the Dark Multiverse Flashpoint story, Eobard also becomes the Flash, and he kind of becomes his own form of hero in a way. A dark, twisted, messed up hero, hell-bent on eradicating competing heroes in the universe, but still a form of hero, right? Technically it counts. And I mean, like, he's still scary, alright? And a version of the Flash, so this counts for this list. In a universe where Barry Allen dies while trying to get his powers back with Flashpoint Batman, aka Thomas Wayne. But once Thawne tried to stop the war between Aquaman and Wonder Woman by threatening them and killing Arthur, you know there's gonna be some hell to pay. So he sets on shaping the world in his own image. This involves preventing Batman from ever becoming Batman and instead creating his own superhero team, full of versions of characters we know and love, but all with Reverse Flash logos somewhere on their suits, usually. And I have to say, preventing Batman from being created is probably the smartest thing Eobard could have done, because either way, Batman is going to lead some form of resistance against you, so good on you. This is the smartest thing that any villain has ever done in the DC universe. Halfway through into number 5, Black Lightning. The Crisis on Infinite Earths crossover event was probably the biggest, most influential event the Arrowverse ever had, similar to how Crisis on Infinite Earths in the comics was a really big event, with characters from shows that we didn't even know were in the Arrowverse making an appearance, like Doom Patrol, Teen Titans, and even Ezra Miller's Flash. However, one of the most highly anticipated crossovers was Black Lightning, who made his appearance after being pulled to Earth 1 by Pariah when his Earth was destroyed in part 3 of the 5-part crossover. His first meeting with the heroes was an eventful one though, attacking Vibe, Frost, and the Flash at the Antimatter Cannon, demanding that he be sent home, even though there was no home to be sent home to. After some quick descriptions about what's going on from Pariah and Barry, he calms down. But before he does, he takes a few passes at the Flash, including just throwing lightning at him, which Barry just blocks with some additional lightning. So, pretty sick if you ask me. And for Supergirl. Okay, this is the last of the Arrowverse stuff, I promise, okay? He fights a lot of people in the Arrowverse. The Invasion crossover was the first big crossover the Arrowverse had. They had a couple prior to this, but this was the first one where Supergirl was brought into Earth 1, and since the Legends were having their first season, they were also there as well. However, after discovering that Barry had changed the timeline and made a whole new reality that gave Diggle a son, and killed Cisco's brother, the group basically benched Barry when they were going to save the president from aliens. Yeah, bench the guy who can run at the speed of light. That's a great idea. So since Barry was staying, Oliver stayed back with him. But it's actually a good thing that they did, because the distress signal turned out to be a trap that everyone went to because, you know, they were trying to save the president. However, they turned against Oliver and Barry because they got brainwashed by Dominators. So in an attempt to get the Dominators out of the others' heads, Barry lured Supergirl to a warehouse where he got her really mad enough to break the connection. He got her mad by showing her how much faster he is and that she couldn't even lay a finger on him. I actually find it funny because it's such a childish thing, but it works so well. Getting close to the end in number 3, Batman. Batman is always depicted as a hero who can beat anyone despite not having any powers, and I get why it's appealing to people, because we all want to feel like we can do anything even though we're not a superhero. But the thing is, this whole Batman is the best thing is a load of bull, okay? Take this single frame from the Price storyline, where Flash puts his fist not even a centimeter away from Batman's face and says, "I could hit you 100 times before you even threw one punch." And he is absolutely right. I love this line. I love Batman being put in his place. Not only that, but as Red Death, Barry was also able to beat Batman after being blasted with positive energy. God, that sounds like the show. Barry was able to take control over his body again as Red Death, since Batman was so full of hate and whatnot. Because, you know, Red Death is a combination of Bruce Wayne and Barry when they combined after entering the Speed Force, while Barry was tied to the front of a cosmic treadmill-powered Batmobile. I'm not even kidding. It sounds absolutely ridiculous. Penultimately, in at number 2, Quicksilver. During the Marvel vs. DC crossover comic event, the Flash was pitted against Quicksilver, since he's the Marvel equivalent. However, there are multiple things about these characters that separate them. For instance, Quicksilver's body is always moving quickly, and he has to actually slow himself down in order to talk to people and live like a normal person would, which is why he comes off as short-tempered and easily annoyed, because he's literally slowing down his life for you and can't wait for you to get in the fast lane. However, the Flash and subsequently other DC speedsters only run fast when accessing the Speed Force, so otherwise they're just normal people with high metabolisms. But when pitted against each other, the Flash did understandably come out on top, because while he needs to access the Speed Force to move fast, he's accessing a literal force of nature, so yeah, it makes sense. Finally, in at number 1, Superman. The Flash beats Superman in one of the most iconic moments of all time in comics. The Flash and Superman have faced off on multiple occasions, multiple of which ended in a tie or close to it. But in the panels of Flash Rebirth number 3, we got to see how that was all possible. After all, Barry is accessing a force of nature. When Barry wanted to re-enter the Speed Force after escaping, the Justice League was looking for a way to disconnect Barry from the Speed Force to save his life. But Barry manages to break free and runs off. Superman follows him though, saying that he will find a way to save him and that they can't lose another hero, and that he won't be able to re-enter the Speed Force because he will keep up with him. That they have raced before and Superman even won a couple times. But that's when Barry looks at him super smugly and says, Those were for charity, Clark. And then boom, the man runs insanely fast and leaves Superman in his dust. I love this moment. It settled the debate once and for all. Who's faster? The Flash, by far. I love it. Best moment in all of comics, okay? Well, I mean, after the introduction of Green Arrow's son, Connor.